Have you ever wondered what some of my favourite films of all times are? Well, want to know more because we're going to explore it in this video series, starting here. So welcome back to the channel, everyone. Yes, so one thing I've omitted from my year and 3/4 on here of YouTube, well, actually nearly 2 years, is that I've never done a top 10 or top 20 films or anything like that. Now it is a well documented part of AJ's Movie Place lore that my favourite film of all times is Jaws. It's a film that I will cite as one of the influencing factors of my movie collecting and my love for film. But I've never ventured into a top 10, top 20 kind of a video. And I thought it's about time to start looking at this and giving some answers. But I thought, how shall I do it? Shall I do a top 10 or top 20? That seems very daunting, such a very daunting thing to do, and it could possibly change on a daily basis depending on the kind of sleep that I have had the night previous. So I thought no. Then I thought, shall I do an A to Z, go through all the A's and pick my favourite A film? And I thought no. What I'll do is I'll go shelf by shelf, one shelf every 2 weeks. We'll take a look at the titles that are on that shelf, and I will pick you my favourite movie and talk about it. I may pick a runner-up. Who knows how it will go? So I'm going to call this series Desert Island Discs because it's got a nice ring to it. Now I know Desert Island Discs is probably something else and has been used elsewhere, but there we go. Take it as you will. My favourite film from this shelf, the film that I would take with me onto a desert island to re-watch, however you want. But this gives you a bit of insight into me, into the films that I love, the films that I really cherish, and that sort of a thing, through want of doing a top 10. Now, it's not necessarily going to be an A to Z because some of the shelves are the same letters. Letters like Q have very little shelf space. So there's that. Not only that, my 4Ks, the majority of my 4Ks are in a different section. I have a different section with Star Trek and Star Wars stuff. I have a different section with the Predator and Alien films in. And then I have animated DC films. I have all my superhero films grouped together. I have all steelbooks grouped together here. I have special edition stuff's there, and I have special edition stuff running all the way around the top. But what we're going to do is we're going to start on this shelf here, which is primarily the numbers, before dropping down to the A shelf and so forth, and eventually I will get all the way around the room, and this will be every 2 weeks on a Saturday morning. So let us begin. So I'm not going to bother around. I'm not going to bother with this lot yet. That's all TV, and thusly that is all there. And I've got some DVDs and stuff down there. But we're actually going to start around here on this shelf here, where primarily, as you can see, I have the Bonds. That's 007. Working my way down to the start of the A's, which, well, because Avatar's sat there, but all the rest of the A's are on the next shelf. I do have a sort of Wonder Woman statue there, and a little Elektra figure, Marvel's Elektra. I think that's based upon a Brian Boland comic cover of Wonder Woman. I just thought I'd say that. So let's have a look down, see what we've got here. That's a Thing coin. Yes, I'll put that somewhere. So let's have a look at the films I have on this shelf here. So we have a 007 section. Now I do have the other 007 films, but they're elsewhere because they're in a special collector's box type thing. So first of all, we have Never Say Never. Again, I know the lights are green, that's why you're getting a green hue. Then we have Timothy Dalton in Living Daylights. License to Kill. We have a steelbook of GoldenEye there. Tomorrow Never Dies. World Is Not Enough. Die Another Day, Casino Royale, Quantum of Solace. Nice slip on that one, actually. I wonder if I can get that off. Skyfall, which I never finished. I never finished that film. No, Skyfall I did finish. Skyfall's a great one. Sorry, I'm talking about No Time to Die. Then we have Spectre there. And obviously, No Time to Die. That's the one I haven't ever finished. Then we have Two Guns. 3:10 to Yuma. 3 Days to Kill. The Fifth Wave. Sixth Day, Arnie. 9.5 Weeks. There was a film from when I was young. 12 Years a Slave. 12 Rounds. 12 Strong. Chris Hemsworth. 13 Hours. With Jim from The Office. Then we have a Jump Street double set. 21, 22 Jump Street. 21 Bridges there. With the late Chadwick Boseman. What a shame that was. 28 Days Later. 28 Weeks Later. What do we have there for £2? That is 30 Days of Night. Based on the graphic novel. 40-Year-Old Virgin. 47 Meters Down. 47 Meters Uncaged. 51st Dates. That's quite good. 71. 99 Homes. Now, I haven't watched that yet. It's still sealed. That was a cheap pickup. 127 Hours. That's a good film. 500 Days of Summer. 7500. Ironically, both together. And both starring Joseph Gordon-Levitt. And 10,000 BC there. And obviously I have Avatar. So I'm going to include Avatar. It's the first of the A's. But so there we go. There's that first shelf. So I'm going to pick out my favourite film. Okay, so there you see that first shelf. I'll probably have some other numbered films somewhere if they're in the 4Ks or anything like that. But that's just the Blu-ray section. I know that there was a 4K in there, given James Bond film was in there, just because that's James Bond. In my mind, it all works. Don't worry about that. So, what do I choose on that? Can you guess my choice of favourite film on that shelf there? It's not Avatar, no. So I picked, there's two that I was sort of humming and hawing about. Which one is my favourite film? So, okay, so the first film on there is, that I've picked from that shelf is 40-Year-Old Virgin. This is my runner-up for that shelf. Fantastic film, very funny, very heartfelt. Steve Carell is fantastic in it. It's got a great support cast, it really has. And every time I revisit this film, it's great. It's a really, really good film. Very funny, likeable characters, fantastic story. But there's only one film on that shelf. There's one film on that shelf that I have to pick as my favourite film. And this also tells you the favourite film of a franchise as well. My favourite film on that shelf is given to Licence to Kill. James Bond, Licence to Kill. Yes. I know that not all the James Bond films are on that shelf. Because like I said, they're in a special edition big box thing that I've got, which is sort of up along the top, and we will get to them as well. But even as the James Bond franchise goes, this is my favourite James Bond film. This is my favourite James Bond. I love Timothy Dalton. I think he was fantastic in this role. I think he was ahead of his time. He certainly was. Timothy Dalton went into this. You came out of the Roger Moore era of James Bond and you went into Timothy Dalton. And what Timothy Dalton gave you in both of his films was a much darker take on the character. A take that, you know, the levity of Roger Moore was gone. And audiences got to this and they weren't ready for it. They were not ready for this darker take of James Bond, of this character. The transition between the levity to the dark didn't work for people. And thusly, after Licence to Kill, obviously Roger Moore, there was a big gap for legal reasons. Timothy Dalton didn't return, and thusly it went to Pierce Brosnan. And GoldenEye is a great film. I love GoldenEye as well. But after that, we kind of saw the reintroduction of the humour, of the light-heartedness and this sort of a thing. And audiences just weren't ready for Dalton and what Dalton was giving. But over time, people have rediscovered this film, rediscovered a love for it, and come to realise that actually this is the closest take to the current James Bond, I'm talking Daniel Craig, that we've had before. This sort of this was sort of like a predecessor to what Daniel Craig gave us. Audiences were ready for it by then, by Daniel Craig. Cinema had become a lot darker, but the world had become a lot more cynical after things like 9/11. This sort of thing had a massive effect on cinema, on you know what I mean, and this sort of thing, and the world became very, very cynical, and was open to a darker take on stuff, and thusly Daniel Craig's James Bond hit highs with that darkness and that reality. But as a James Bond film, this, you know, it's different to the other James Bond films. It feels different. Ejected are a lot of the gadgets and this sort of a thing. It goes against sort of James Bond formula, against James Bond conventions, and it does something different with it. Far more grounded story about drug dealing and all this sort of a thing. And, you know, it's a great, great film. So, yeah, we go. For that shelf, License to Kill... blah, blah, blah. I'm going to lose my words there. For that shelf, License to Kill has been picked as my favourite movie. So, you watched the video. You know what was on that shelf. Why don't you let me know down below what you would have picked from that shelf as your favourite movie. Is there any on there that shocks you that I've actually got? As in, why have you got that piece of trash in your collection? There may well be. But yeah, let me know. Also, do you like this idea? Do you like this idea as a sort of continuing series for as long as it lasts anyway? I'll be intrigued by your thoughts. It gives me the opportunity to look through the collection again, to show you what I've got, to pick out, have a choice of picking out stuff. And it may get harder and it may get larger because, as you can see, some of the shelves fall deeper. Oh, sorry, that light's come on, because they've got more stuff on top. And then other shelves further down are actually wider, so you can get two layers of film on. So there will be bigger collection shelves to look through. So again, let me know down below your thoughts, your feelings, and yeah, this is AJ. Thank you for watching, and thoughts down below. See you later.